Early on in my time with Quakers, I learned about this thing called a Clearness Committee. And it was basically, the way it was described to me is like, you've got something you need to figure out. You have a problem you need to solve or a question you need to answer. You don't necessarily need advice. You probably know what you need to do, but you need to clear through all the things that are interrupting your ability to access what in your heart of hearts know you need to do, so you can then have a Clearness Committee.
I have a personal prayer. I am the clay, mold me. I am the vessel, fill me. I am the instrument, use me. But in trying to decide how best to be used, I need the prayer and support and listening of others.
A Clearness Committee is a small group of friends that gather and basically ask you tough questions about what your leading is, what your concern is, what's happening inside you, what do you feel?
Well, people, we regularly have what's called a Clearness Committee for marriage. We have Clearness Committees about whether people are actually called to do a ministry that they're thinking about. We have Clearness for membership. Are you ready to join the Religious Society of Friends?
A Clearness Committee, I think in Quaker terms, very much involves humility. You are submitting yourself generally voluntarily to an entity that is a part of your meeting, your congregation.
A lot of people will convene a Clearness Committee if they are getting married, or if they're choosing what college to go to, or choosing which direction to go in their career, or that sort of thing.
So that's where we get the name Clearness Committee. It's about clearness, becoming clear about a decision.
When we call this group together, we're looking for very specific kinds of people. We're looking for people who are good at listening and who don't have a tendency to give advice.
These should be people that are important in your life and in the life of your community, but not so close to you that they're going to be influenced by your decision one way or the other.
They're not there to provide answers. They are there to try and help you see clearly what the situation is, what's happening, and what you should do about it.
It's a gift of your spiritual community, saying you don't have to struggle alone. Here are your companions that can work with you and go on this part of your journey with you, which is, to me, phenomenal in this day and age, that we could be so blessed that our community says, you don't have to do this alone. We'll help.
The prep work for a Clearness Committee is that the clerk will find a place and time and put together the committee, and then the person who is the focus person of the committee will write a page or two in advance.
And so you start off by actually describing the situation, like really sitting down, writing it out, so that everybody has access to it, and you can say, okay, this is what's going on, and this is why it's confusing to me. These are what I perceive my options to be in this situation. What am I missing?
The steps involved in the actual Clearness Committee are to come together and for the person who is asking for the Clearness Committee to state what it is that they want clarity on. They state their problem or decision point.
Even though it's been passed out beforehand, I say in my own words, this is the situation as I understand it.
Then the committee should ask clarifying questions that are really just about facts. Like, did you mean you're moving to Georgia in the US or Georgia in Asia? That kind of thing.
And then after this time of questioning, we sit and we wait. And I've been in clearness committees where sitting and waiting lasted for 20 minutes. And I've been in clearness committees where sitting and waiting lasted for 3 hours.
Usually people will just listen and hold this space together and ask the Spirit to bring to them clarity.
The committee starts listening together and asking deeper spiritual questions. Do you feel that God is calling you to do this? How do you see your life evolving if you follow this path? How do you see your life evolving if you turn away from this opportunity?
So the questions that a Clearness Committee asks are all going to be questions that are open-ended and that lead to greater self-reflection and to deeper prayer and to a more imaginative engagement with the problem or question.
At that point, the committee's role is to step back and listen and let the focus person for the clearness process really respond to those questions at a deep heart, mind, and spirit level.
So out of that time, a lot of times people will share things that they noticed. Maybe they'll share, I noticed your eyes really light up when you talked about this idea, or I noticed a change in your body posture when you were talking about this decision.
But my experience in this is that when you've got this group of people gathered to listen around this issue, each person is going to hear a little piece of God's voice, of a way forward.
A lot of times, the person themselves will start feeling that clarity in themselves and will be able to name it to some degree and be able to say, yes, when you shared that, I really felt like that rang true, or that felt right within my body or my spirit.
I've come into a clearness committee with a preconceived notion of what's going to happen, and it gets blown out of the water every single time. It's kind of hilarious that way.
I've been on clearness committees where the group found that people weren't clear to get married, for instance, or that membership might need to take a little more time, or that there might need to be 2 or 3 or 4 meetings spaced out over a number of months before we get at the clearness part of things.
I think that's helpful in a couple of ways. It's helpful in the yes, like of, yes, like this was a leading, so okay, self-doubt, like take that. There's a committee of other friends who have listened and heard. It's also like, I can rejoice in the no. Like when a clearness committee ends in a wait, or like, that wasn't what I thought it was, then that's coming from God. And I can feel so much more comfortable in that no or in that wait than just like, well, I really said no or wait, but it was just like my own self-doubt. That's gone. That's kind of out of the picture at the end of a clearness committee.
Sometimes you don't come to clarity, so that's kind of a bummer when that happens, but it definitely is not uncommon. So if that happens to you, don't worry, you're not a failure at Quakerism. You can try again, or you can allow the wisdom that did emerge out of that community to inform your decision.
In this space of faithful waiting and listening, and frankly, listening with love for the person who has the question, means that when we bring that love together, in the different ways each individual holds that, even if no clarity comes from it, there is a sense of being held in love by our community that can make the lack of clarity not as scary as it used to be.